if you go down Rising a little bit where it intersects with the turnpike, right there is the turnpike exit. We would then head north on Rising Road, and that kind of wraps through Cecil Township. We would get to Route 980. I believe Rising Road, we're on it for about 3.5 miles. There is a little, a new cut through where Rising cuts down to Route 980 that we would take. So we would go 980 south to Gladden Road. It would be a right on Gladden Road. And Gladden Road actually turns into Jacobs Road at the Mount Pleasant Township, Cecil Township line. And then from there we would go south on Primrose and then on to Galati Road.
Okay. And what would you estimate the average hourly traffic to be during the limited time period that the hydraulic fracturing takes place for each well?
Roughly 5 to 7 trucks per hour for water.
Again, you testified previously this. How will that reused water be stored on site?
In closed top 350 barrel vertical tanks.
Will there be any open impoundments on the Schultz site?
No, sir.
And will there be any reserve pits on the Schultz site?
No, sir.
Now, okay, so 40% of water is reused water. The balance, 60% approximately, you're anticipating would be from freshwater sources. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
And where would that, what would be the source of that fresh water? How would it get to the Schultz site?
We would pipe it in from a neighboring township to the west, Mount Pleasant Township, pending approval on Mount Pleasant.
Would that be with above ground water lines?
Yes, sir. Temporary water lines.
Okay. Now, your domain is the trucking related to the necessary for hydraulic fracturing, but are you also at least generally familiar with the routes that would be used by other large vehicles that would be part of the development process?
Yes, it would be the same route the water trucks would use that we just, that Carl just traced.
Now, you mentioned in your testimony, Connor pad that range would like to explore other options that would reduce the amount of truck miles that would be traveled to bring the reused water to Schultz. What was that plan?
Yeah, so I think we're always kind of considering all of our options, and one of our options is to place temporary storage on the Connor pad and actually run trucks to the Connor pad, which is only a half mile, 3,000 feet on a township road, rather than run the water trucks 6.5 miles, a little over, to the Schultz. We would run the water trucks to the Connor and then pump that water to the Schultz.
The route, what I call the primary route, the first one you testified to, approximately how many miles of road is that, and how much of that is in Cecil Township?
It's about 6.5 miles, 6.6 I believe, and about 4.6 of that is in Cecil Township. Or state roads, but they are in Cecil Township.
Will Rain coordinate trucking with both the Cannon, McMillan, and the Fort Cherry school districts with the appropriate blackout times around school bus drop-off and pickups?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Horowitz can testify to that in more detail if necessary.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, has Range used Route 50 in the past, past the intersection of Range in conjunction with some of its other operations in the region?
Yes, sir.
And if the alternative plan was used that provided for water to be trucked, reused water to be trucked to Connor and then piped to Schultz, would Range agree to blackouts during school bus hours in the vicinity of Route 50 and Range Road?
Yes, sir.
And to your knowledge, have there been any complaints about truck traffic passing the intermediate school on Route 50?
No, not to my knowledge.
And will Range enter into a standard access maintenance agreement with the township and, where appropriate, with PennDOT?
Yes.
And based on conditions of the roads, will Range undertake an analysis of those roads and, where appropriate, improve those roads before trucking takes place?
Yes, Matt Ford, he will address that.
Okay, I think there was a question about a bridge. I think either Mr. Fortney or Mr. Worovitz will answer that question. So, will vehicles be permitted to queue on township roads at the site entrance?
No, sir.
The access road there is well over 2,000 feet in length. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, if Harpo could show, there is a pull-off kind of in the the right-hand turn of the there and further down the Lease Road that if we need to stage a vehicle while it's waiting for an escort, we can do that.
There was testimony with Connor Samuel about various types of traffic control. I will defer questions on those to Mr. Worovitz and Mr. Fortney. That's all I have for Mr. Well.
That's accurate, yes.
And so where and how is where will the water get and how long will it get there?
So it would not just be water from the Connor pad. It would be water from other Range operations that we would truck to the Connor and then pipe to the Schultz. So we would just install temporary tanks on the Connor location and then truck water into those from other Range operations to use in the Schultz. Yes, we could use the Connor production water since we would have tanks on that site. A truck would take them out of the water out of the production tanks, put it into the vertical tanks, and then we would pump it.
Okay, so I take two questions about that. So how many temporary tanks would fit on it and or
If we do the first option where we are not using Connor, we would attempt to get 20 temporary tanks at the Schultz. If we do the second option where we do utilize the Connor for temporary storage, it would be again 15 to 20. depending on how our production equipment sits in there and how much space we have available to put that temporary storage and still have access for our water trucks.
What would be the capacity, 20?
They're 350 barrels now. We only fill them to 300 barrels per chapter 70 regulation.
Yeah, and they would fit on your manual short
No, ma'am, we would install them right before the frac would happen.
So I guess my point is, you're asking permission to use your water on a manual and short or not, there's a 3-year time limit between when you need more water.
It's not the actual water from the conner, it is just the ability to use the pad to store temporary tanks to pump water over
So you're not actually asking, you're not actually asking permission to use more water on something or asking permission to store temporary tanks in both locations from various properties throughout the property.
But the tanks would be installed 30 days before the Schultz frac and taken out right after the Schultz frac.
So 30 days you use one on it and for short order.
30 days prior to Schultz and then the entire frac, and then once the Schultz frac was over, we would take those tanks out.
So you're essentially using a something as a staging.
Or staging area, yes, ma'am.
But that does that not enhance the traffic between the two locations, so that would be like State Road, under 80, 50, turnpike, you're going to then add additional traffic to Ring Road.
We would only use one or the other. If the township permits us to put temporary tanks at Connor, we would not send the 5 to 7 trucks an hour to Schultz. We would just send that to Connor and pump it over.
But it's like this, I guess new stating that you using the water on it and for short term, but you're really asking for temporary and pilot issues.
To store water to pump to Schultz. And we would use the water that is produced at the Connor during that time frame in the Schultz frac. Yes.
Is there any plan on behalf of our, the region has a significant number of those roads on the area which are not public water? They are well and spring water. Is there any advisory resource for provide water residents in the area? Use water located in your regarding maybe
I mean, as far as operationally, I don't think we set out, I don't believe that may be impacted is an accurate statement. You know, we don't set out to pollute anyone's water. But there is a PA American water line further north on Route 980 that we have been working through the process and seeing what the economics and everything look like on extending that water line further south to help support the Schultz and possibly the Connor as well if the time frames work out.
Okay.
No, I mean, my only question is still about trying to get a water line in my house when the drilling and fracking does take place at the Schultz.
We couldn't hear whatever he said.
Mr. Monitor just said his concerns with the water line being important to